back to Unfazed Under Fire. I'm David K. Gutz, the Leadership Alchemist, your host and moderator for this show. Now, this show is dedicated to helping executives amplify their leadership impact, gain fresh insights, and build the resilience needed to thrive in today's unpredictable, crazy world. And we feature two types of guests on the show. First, thought leaders in leadership development, organizational culture, and team dynamics who can share strategies tailored to meet your challenges as an executive. And we also feature seasoned executives who have embraced their own leadership development journey fully and who recognize that people and culture are the keys to maximizing organizational value because they are. At its core, this show is about pioneering breakthroughs in leadership and culture, ensuring you provide rewarding work experiences while also inspiring excellence in others towards the greater good and fulfilling your vision. And culture is created and sustained through leadership. Thus, leadership is the core of your success. And we believe that effective leadership begins from within. The true impact comes from first igniting the human spirit that lies in wait in each of us, and then following a path of self-mastery, which is the foundation for leading others with clarity and confidence. And in these disruptive times, self-mastery isn't just beneficial, it has become essential to your success. When executives harness their inner resourcefulness and lead from the inside out, they unlock the full potential of collaboration, the most powerful unifying force any organization can wield. Now, today I have the pleasure of welcoming a true pioneer to the show, Felix Rector, whose career has spanned all the way from being a design engineer for a shipbuilding company to now focusing on affiliate and digital marketing. And I connected to Felix because I began to follow your Facebook group, Era of Health, which provides powerful tips and research on helping develop healthy lifestyles and promoting metabolic health. And I sense sharing, Felix's exploration on the show and health and vitality could add value to executives who listen to the show and care about taking care of themselves. So I reached out and you were gracious enough to join me. So welcome to the show, Felix. Great to have you.
Thank you so much, David. Great to be here.
Yeah, great. Awesome. I'm going to share a little bit about your background in the audience so they see a little bit more about you, and then we'll get started. As I said, Felix is a creator of Era of Health Facebook community, a platform dedicated to supporting health enthusiasts in their journey to live longer, happier, healthier lives, which I think we all want. And Felix's background is as diverse as it is impressive, with a bachelor's in naval architecture and ocean engineering from Germany and a master's in technology and management. Felix he got that in Norway. And Felix has combined technical expertise with a passion for leadership and innovation in his work. He's lived in 5 countries, visited over 33, and has undertaken incredible adventures from hiking the Alps to sailing 5,000 nautical miles in a small boat, which I don't know if I could do. So it's pretty impressive. Growing up in you grew up in a health-conscious household with parents who worked as a general practitioner and a physiotherapist, right? Felix developed a lifelong interest in health and well-being. And in 2022, after the mess we went through, he channeled his passion into his own business, focusing on health-conscious living and high-ticket affiliate marketing. Today, he's here to share his insights in achieving vitality, the principles of healthy lifestyle, and the mindset we all need to thrive, which is really important to executives that are really corporate athletes. You could call them corporate athletes. They have to take care of themselves or they don't get to do their job very well. Now, before I dive into today's conversation, I just want to clarify that neither Felix and I are medical professionals or doctors. The insights and ideas we discuss are based on our personal experiences, research, and perspectives. They should not be considered as medical advice. If you're considering changing your health and lifestyle, please consult a doctor or qualified health professional first. Your health is personal, and it's essential that you ensure that this approach is for you. But I also believe there's research out there and things we can talk about that are pretty straightforward and helpful. So, Felix, again, great to have you. I just want to dive straight in. And with all my guests, you've had, as we all do, we have our own fascinating journeys in life. You studied naval architecture. You've been exploring leadership. Now you're launching your own business in affiliate marketing. And can you share a little bit about your journey in your own words? How did it end up leading you to where you're at today, focusing on health and vitality as a central part of your mission?
Yes, for sure. Thank you, first of all, for this lovely introduction. before I'm going to answer your question, it feels really awkward, but I just need to quickly plug in my cable.
Yeah, no worries, please.
Otherwise,
No,
I'll leave you in a second.
Part of life. We need electricity to thrive. No worries.
Yeah, isn't that right? Yes.
Yeah. That's what I like about podcasts. They're a natural conversation. We probably won't even cut that out. So just part of being human is we need that cord plugged in.
Right.
I'm glad you saw that.
Yes. So yeah, well, where do I start? You already mentioned some of my background, but in the past, for me, it was not too easy to find my way. I've been hopping in between the idea of doing naval architecture or something with ships, and on the other hand, doing something maybe regarding flying aircraft, becoming a pilot. And so it was always, kind of back and forth. I did, like, in Germany, the test for Lufthansa, the German airline, to become a pilot. And then, things happened, and then my mindset shifted again. And I was like, okay, then I'm going to do something that has to do with the ocean. And so it was back and forth. And I've always been trying to kind of figure out, what do I really want? And while in the past, I was really in the mindset that, you get a job, you go to university maybe first, if you can, then you get a job, and then that's what you're going to do until the rest of your life. Maybe you change it a couple times, but it's basically this very traditional approach. I grew up in a very traditional household, and I noticed when, like, looking at it now, when I decided not to pursue a career in flying, I basically also gave a part of my passion, or gave a part of my heart away for something that was more secure, which was shipbuilding. And looking at this now, the development I've had since then really, really showed me that this is not what I want. I don't need safety. I don't want safety. I want something more unexpected in my life, something more adventurous. And that was, in the end, also the reason why I started this business. I saw the opportunity to start a business that aligns with my core values, such as, being of service, helping others, with the most valuable thing that we own, which is our health, in my opinion. And hence also, the other most valuable thing we have is our time. So to improve the quality of our time that we spend on this planet. So yeah, it was, I don't know, I'm still not where I want to be. It's a process, obviously, but at least I figured out what I don't want in the past. Does that answer your question?
I think it's really beautiful what you said, because I think there's a lot of that struggling that goes on, and especially these days when we're getting some of our illusions shattered in various ways in the world today. Like, well, I thought that was true. Well, it's not true anymore. Things like that. And you realize that, we're this whole thing of safety and security, which is fundamental to being our survival instinct. Yes, we want to be safe and secure. We don't, but we're also in a world where we're not being attacked by saber-toothed tigers or animals. We're in an environment that's fairly safe and secure. The fundamental needs, being able to get food and so forth right now at this time are available to us.
Yes.
The question is why? How much do we engage the survival instinct? How far can that take us before it begins diminishing the possibilities of life? Like, why are we really here? And I think that's something I work with leaders, is why are you really, many times I shared this before in the podcast, but many times I'll ask a leader, so why do you show up every day to work? And the answer is, well, I've got to run a company, or I've got to run this part of the company, or, well, I'm a CFO, or I'm a marketing person, or I'm a salesperson, and I'm here to sell. But many times it goes about it that far, and it's because they've kind of followed. And it's great. Senior executives are some of the smartest people, and some of the best leaders I've met. But the question is why are you doing what you're doing? And a lot of times connecting that to what you're doing energizes you more, right? As you're saying, and you're actually challenging that, and which I think is a beautiful thing. And you've done that in adventurous ways too, like 5,000 nautical miles, in a small boat. I wonder what was that like? Well, we're going to get there in a second, but I think just want to acknowledge that this is part of, it's a beautiful thing to kind of embrace what you're passionate about, and the things that support us are our health. If we don't have our health, we can't do any of that. We can't go on those adventures. And if we're not looking at how we're using our time, we can spend a lot of time off in a direction that doesn't allow us to experience what we want to most experience in life. So I think
Yes, that's very
that's
true.
really, that's very well said.
Yeah.
So what had you go on that? Sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just maybe two comments, because first one, I think what is also really important to acknowledge is that in this time that we're living now, there's so many opportunities. And especially for young people like me, when you have all these options, it can be very difficult to figure out like what it is that you want, right? In the past, it was more like maybe you would do something that your mom does or your dad or some other family member, or you would have a special talent, and you would go immediately into that direction. But today, because of this overwhelming amount of opportunities, really figuring that out, I think that's an issue that that my generation has to deal with, and it's a luxury problem, definitely. When we talk about that fear and all that kind of stuff, we don't have that anymore, as you said. So so we have this luxury just to be able to decide what we want to do, and at the same time, it's kind of not allowing you to really focus, right? So the easiest is when you have something where you're like, okay, wow, this is my talent. This is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to help people. But if you don't have that, then getting there to figure that out is a rocky path. Yeah.
It is. It is a rocky path. Yeah. That's just what else? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No worries. The second thing I wanted to mention is, if we don't treat our time and our health as the most valuable assets that we have, then we won't enjoy our lives as much as we wish for, right? So, I mean, very simple example. If we neglect our health, what happens? We become sick, for example. We become sick, and it takes its toll on our energy, our happiness, and the time that we all know better uses for, right? And it doesn't even have to be a sickness. It could be like any kind of ailment that reduces the quality of life. So it could be developing chronic pain, back pain from office work, because you're maybe not strengthening your back, for example. And the outcome is the same. It's less quality time that you have, and which produces less enjoyment. And this leads again to less productivity and reduces how you perform in your chosen, profession.
Yeah, that's so true, because I mean, it's like and when you have good health, and when you are and your time is so structured that I have to show up at work, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. You got to go to sleep a little bit. You can go into lack of consciousness around the appreciation for good health. Now I'm at 67, probably as an example of could have taken care of my back better. Many things are starting to work less effectively, and I'm having to spend more time taking care of it. So I'm an example of somebody that could have probably used your advice 20 years, 25 years ago and followed it. But it's never too late, and you have to just attend to yourself. Now, okay, the writing's on the wall here. This is going to likely get worse. So you got to do something about it now so that you can stretch some time out there. But I know, I appreciate, also you're just pointing to some things that are really important for everybody to take stock in. And what am I doing to take care of myself? And for the executives that listen to this show, this is why I talk about personal care, well-being so much with my clients. I'm not a doctor. I mean, obviously I'm asking them to see people that can help them, but there are certain basic things like how much water are you drinking today and things like that I've, I had one executive that said I lose energy by noon and 1 o'clock, and then I get irritable. And I said, well, how are you starting your day? And he's saying, I'm drinking, I'm trying to get the energy. I'm drinking 5 Diet Cokes by the time 10 o'clock in the morning comes for. And I just said, well, would you like to try an experiment? And this was just nothing like rocket science here or anything that is crazy. I said, why don't you replace that with water? And he was surprised by the result. It was very paradoxical. The caffeine, he still had his cup of coffee and he still had his, maybe 1 Diet Coke in the morning, but he just replaced the rest of it with water. And he said, I had more energy to get through my day. So, are we 80% water, right? Is that what we are?
I think so. Something between 70 and 80%. Yeah.
70, 80%. So anyway, so you grew up in a health conscious household, right? You had a general practitioner doctor in your household, and was a physiotherapist was the other one.
Yes,
what is a physiotherapist?
correct.
What is that? What is it, by the way?
A physiotherapist basically helps you with any kind of muscle issues that you have. It could also be that you have a torn ligament or something in that regard. Everything that it's basically, how do I say that? Bear with me. English is still not my first language.
Yeah, I understand.
So
I appreciate
if I need some time to describe certain things, it's basically your overall, your body working with the muscles, the bones, the ligaments, right?
Structure.
And that's where physiotherapy kind of has its approach. So it's a lot of, when you go to a physiotherapist with some ailment, it's going to be a lot about movement, can be about loosening tension in certain muscles, for example. But mainly, I think the main part is the movement, how you move your body.
Right.
So, talk about stretching, and talk about
flexibility and strength and all that, and making sure you're leveraging your structure as it's meant to be used, and not overemphasizing certain things or whatever.
But it could even be it could even be the way you sit. It could even be the way you walk. It's very, very simple things in the end. Yeah.
Yes. Very good. Well, you had these healthcare professionals that you grew up with. So how did that shape your views on health, and how have those views evolved over time, if you could extrapolate on that?
Yeah, very good question. So to be honest, when I was a child or a teenager, I didn't really think much about health. Not about eating healthy, not about drinking plenty of water or going outside.
Who does?
Exactly. I mean, there's one example that kind of is kind of like a thread that runs through my life a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Maybe it's about eating meat, for example. I demanded from my mom to cook more meat, and I would eat meat daily, not knowing, for example, about the antibiotics that the animals would consume, and not to mention the conditions that animals for mass meat production would live in. And what I notice now in retrospective is that even though my parents have both been working in the health industry, their approach to health didn't seem very holistic. I mean, don't get me wrong, they always made sure that I didn't eat too much sugar, or that I brushed my teeth, took care of my hygiene, moved my body, they sent me outside to play 3 hours in the rain, But I thought that was normal, I thought that was normal. And maybe it wasn't. So what I took away from them was mainly, if we talk more about how they consciously influenced me, is that all the ailments or the sicknesses that people had, what people would do to themselves to end up with all this stuff, like organ failure, cancer, worn out joints, for example, arthritis, all that kind of stuff. Then there was, for example, the consumption of alcohol that played a role, smoking, not having an active lifestyle, eating fast food a lot, all that kind of stuff. So that really was something that consciously influenced me. And my views on health changed or developed when I finished high school and went on a trip to New Zealand with a friend. We didn't have much money. And what I mentioned before, if we get back to the example of meat, we ate a lot less meat there and more vegetables just because it was cheaper. And at that moment, I also realized that I didn't need that much meat to be happy and healthy. And before then, I used to play actually American football. It's not that typical in Germany. I mean, in the US, it's a lot more, a lot more, how would you say it, popular. Yes. And so I thought, in order to build muscle, in order to play and not sit on the bench, I would need to eat more meat. And then I noticed with the change of my diet, which was kind of like forced, I was able to recognize, okay, I can eat different things and still build muscle and still be, full of energy. And that kind of like, I'm not saying that meat is bad, not at all, just to say that at this point. But that continued when I started studying. I questioned the upbringing of animals for meat production. It's a choice everybody has. And while I was earning some money during my apprenticeship, which was combined to studying, so it's a different story. But while you do the apprenticeship, you also get an income because you're basically already working for the company. And so I was able to afford meat, and I was also able to afford good organic meat, and yet it was very expensive. But at that time, I noticed, okay, I really want to eat the more qualitative meat because of the antibiotics, because of the way some animals would grow up. And I started to look at meat like something more precious. And after some consideration, I found for myself a personal solution to not miss out on good meat. I mean, I really like meat. So instead of buying expensive meats, I lived as a vegetarian for a while. And in that time, I saved some money to invest into a hunting license. It's quite the costly course in Germany. It's about 2,000 euros, and it took 9 months to do that. But the result of that was that I was able to eat meat from healthy animals, that had a great life. I sometimes had observed them for weeks. Because, I mean, it's maybe a bit different with hunting in Germany than in the US. We have obviously a lot less space. So you usually have some areas where you are allowed to hunt. It's usually private property. That way, because you permanently hunt there, you get to know the animals as well. And so you decide weeks or even months beforehand, okay, this animal actually, is old. This animal is sick, needs to be taken. And so that was something where I was like, okay, this is really good for my consciousness, and I can still eat very healthy meat. And I know that's not an option for everybody, but that was for me personally the luxury that I was able to do that. So interestingly enough, today I would say I'm a lot more health conscious than my parents, telling them to build muscle, to not eat sweets before going to bed, or to actually reduce the overall amount of sugar and low quality carbs in their diet. So so that's basically what I've been seeing over the years, and it's very interesting.
That's great. Yeah, it's just the one that was advised and now becoming the advisor. Did they listen to you? Do they take into what you say? Being medical professionals, do they appreciate some of your feedback? Or
I think they know. But they often treat it like, okay, this is just like you just want to optimize everything. I just want to have my sweets,
Yeah, exactly.
And, I mean, it's fair enough, I like to have a sweet now and then. I think it's about balance.
Moderation,
maybe
right?
Moderation.
Everything is moderation, right?
Moderation, maybe not eating that piece of cake with, 1,000 calories right before bed, but maybe do it in the morning or in the afternoon or something,
exactly. Exactly.
That already makes a difference.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're pointing at, first of all, I love your explanation of the choice of meat and what we are putting into our body when we're consuming without consciousness. And I am a believer in the free markets. That's what, to me, it's this being an entrepreneur and the ability to choose to just start a podcast because I wanted to, and be able to continue to learn and develop that into something that could actually be monetized and over time. And that's great. We also have, though, in that same free market system, people that get very kind of greedy, if you will, and look to the products they're selling to people and don't take into account the ones that are consuming it, but consider, how can I make more money on selling this product? And I think that is a place where we go on in our society that we can see, whether it's big ag, big farm, et cetera, farm and that kind of thing. have gone that direction where some of what they're producing is actually causing harm to people. And, and so it's the idea of being more conscious and selecting organic foods if you have the ability to afford those. And we have a society that doesn't always have pocket society that can't afford that, which we have to look at. But it's important to become, but certainly executives have the ability to choose what they consume and what they eat. And half their struggle is what's convenient now, because I haven't thought it through and I'm hungry, versus how can I think ahead and make sure that I'm cooking something that's nutritious and good for me and I'm choosing organics, right? That's the key there. And we've had this, but one of the things we've had in our society that I've seen, especially over the last 20 years, because it was going back to what we said, we're not in survival mode anymore, right? We're not in survival mode anymore. So therefore we can go, it's easy to go unconscious because of that. So the other side of being in a non-survival mode situation is we can go to the grocery store and not look at the ingredients and pull stuff off the shelf and just cook it and eat it, right? We also tend to be more sedentary than we have in the past. We're not farmers. We don't have to get up at 4 a.m. and feed the chickens and the cows and go out to, we may complain we have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning so we can make the bus, right? And we're making the bus and we're not having time to really work out. So we have where sedentary lifestyles and processed foods are available to us. From your research and personal experience, what do you believe are the foundational habits that people need to be more conscious of, that if they would make the biggest impact on their life? And this is from the research that you've done, through your community, online community, and your own self. What do you think are the core habits that if people just attended to these things, they would exponentially increase their health and vitality?
Yes, very good question. I think the first one is to minimize stress, because stress actually has an effect on everything in our body. And the only way that, as far as I know, I mean, I'm not a health professional, but as far as I know, the only way how you can get rid of stress is through movement, working out, going for a walk, doing some yoga, for example. And the other thing is that you should care as much about your body as your mind. I mean, having stress basically implies that already, because it's so interconnected. So how can you make that a habit, right? How can you make that a habit? I mean, it starts with drinking water instead of soda, right? It starts with actually saying, okay, I'm going to take, even if it's, like 20 minutes and not an hour, to prepare like a meal from scratch, so to say, from the single ingredients, and not just, use like the frozen mixture of like sauce and stuff, and then, put everything together. It's really what I've been noticing, like this trend with food is it's very processed, right? Nowadays, ultra processed foods. I also noticed that when I was I lived the past 2 years, I lived in Norway, and when you think about Norwegians, you always, or like a lot of people mention that they are so beautiful people, and they are. And when I got there, I was so shocked about the food that they had, because it was so processed. But at the same time, they were still fit. They were healthy. They looked good. And for me, like the realization was that even with ultra processed foods and imported produce, for example, and the alcohol consumption is huge, in Norway. And they also use a lot of snus, which is a kind of tobacco that you place behind your lips in like small bags, so they don't smoke, but it's still nicotine. And so what I noticed is that being in good health is more than only just nutrition, it's also like the environment, being in nature, that shapes it. it's your lifestyle. Norwegians are very active. They work out daily. They go skiing, running, any kind of exercise outdoors, really. And then also a sense of community. So while they have like food where I would say, oh my God, this is bad, all the other stuff kind of like balances that, So that's something very interesting, and that's something where people can build habits from, going for a walk every day, having a water first thing in the morning, taking a little bit more time for the food, because in the end, what you're going to gain from all that is you're going to have more energy, you're going to feel better. So what matters if you, use 20 minutes more to prepare your food when you're going to get your work done in half the time, for example, yeah.
Well, again, you come from, it's interesting to have so much processed food. I don't know if it compares to the United States, because I think there's a lot of ingredients that are allowed in the food here that Europe would say, like, no, not allowed. It's illegal to put that in food because it hurts people.
Sure.
So it's but you're also pointing to something else that, we think about what we consume, which is important: water versus soda, single ingredient foods that are put together to make a dish rather than processed foods put together to make a dish. Those are consumed, whether it's vitamins, and you take vitamins and minerals, or whatever you do to help your body. But what you're pointing to is a holistic view of being in nature, which is a healing force. I watch a documentary on, forest bathing in Japan, for example. There's a big thing there that they want to go out and be in the forest and allow the botanicals to kind of fall on their bodies and to breathe it in. And there's a natural healing that comes from that process of just going out and walking through the forest.
It's true, like some trees, it's not going to hurt.
Yeah. It's certainly not going to hurt. Fresh air is not going to hurt you, and it's going to be much better than standing in line in the car at exhaust fumes hitting you, right? And also community and connection. I think that's the other thing is in our world, and I think this happened really, lockdowns and COVID have now been shown to be not based at all in science, and not only that, they were a detriment to child development and our own health, because we were cut off from each other. And we weren't allowed to be together. I mean, liquor stores it's crazy. Liquor stores were praised to stay open, but you couldn't go to church. I mean, it seemed as crazy things that we did during a COVID that were really unhealthy for us. And you're pointing to the connection, and that is really important. I'm curious. One of the things that are going to follow up on this question is the word era of health. Can you tell me what had you picked that name for your community? What's behind that name? And before I ask any more questions, I'm just curious. I'm sure it was consciously created. I mean, I know it also could be German related to more German speaking. I don't know, but let me know what that's about.
I mean, I do like the meaning of the word era is obviously the same. But I don't know. I like in German, era stands for something different than it's like a personal thing, Then maybe if I say era in English. And well, to be honest, health, it's obvious, right? I wanted to needed to be a keyword that is obvious, health. And the era is about the development that we have been seeing. I mean, consciously, I've only been occupied with this kind of stuff for the past 2 years. Or maybe a little longer, but we can really notice that in the past 10 or even 20 years, there has been a shift towards a more healthy lifestyle, towards self-optimization in the way that you look at your health, and yes, also medicine is developing, but I think the medicine, at least in the Western world, is more to treat the symptoms instead of actually treat looking at your holistic health. And therefore I thought era as a keyword that describes how we have this shift going on, and hopefully also for longer. And I can see that, I can see that it's going to be more important in the future, and people are going to be more conscious about their health. So that's how that came together.
Got it. Great. And what is the primary thing you're trying to do with the mission in that community? What is it that I know it's a bit, on one hand, it's a business orientation for you and it's aligned with your passion. So that takes care of hopefully generating revenue for you. But from a point of view of what had that be your focus, what are you trying to accomplish in the community, the online community? And I'll make sure there's a link below in the podcast, how to find that community on Facebook. But what was the emphasis for why you created this?
Yes. So first of all, when you share the link, also make sure to share the link to the Instagram community, because it's in fact both on Instagram and Facebook.
I will do that. Yeah.
And so originally, I intended to spread the word about canyon water, which is basically hydrogen water. And I made some personal experiences with that. And I also saw it as a business opportunity. And that's why I was like, I want to spread the word to more people. And while this is still part of the plan, I actually haven't really talked about it much or, posted much about it. It's this page and this community has become a lot more than that. I can really see the demand or like the need for health education. And while at this point, I would say, I'm not researching the content, and doing hours of research, making sure that everything is completely right. I'm not able to do that, So my main aim is to share different trends within the health industry for people to look at, so they get like a first kind of touch, with that topic. Because in the end, I'm convinced that you should do your own research. You should not just believe everything that is spread on the internet. And I mean, it's difficult because sometimes you post something and it's controversial, and a lot of people are starting to hate. And I'm like, well, that's not my intention. I don't want to convince you to do this, or I don't want to, to influence you.
I mean, this is where this whole disinformation, misinformation thing has gotten out of hand.
Yes.
Ultimately, what we have to teach people is you are responsible for the information you take in. And if something upsets you, don't pay any attention to it. And if something is concerning you, you should do your own research. Or if if you see something, don't just take, oh, that's interesting. We'll talk about hydrogen water in a little bit, but here, as I've, actually, interestingly enough, ran into somebody and I'm now a big fan of it. But we have to, but at the same time, we have to take responsibility. The biggest point is for educating ourselves and finding streams of information like yours that can break into the conditioning that, that our brain has gotten, believing that something is true. And it may be something that out there that may enlighten us and makes us more healthy, more vital, things that we didn't realize because we were also fed by other information that was fed to us for a particular reason, because it wanted to keep us kind of imprisoned in that perspective, because that perspective supported people to make money. Let's just put it that way. Mm-hmm. That's the way I would put it, right? So, and I'm not denouncing anything here. I'm just saying take personal responsibility for your health and go to professionals that you believe can give you the information you need. Or you hear something from RF Health, go to your doctor or your healthcare provider and say, hey, I learned this. What do you think about that? Then use it to open your mind to new possibilities. Because a lot of what's out there is well-researched, like around hydrogen water, for example. There's really strong research on that. So, yeah, I think that's really important. What are some of the things that you have learned or came to value that has been researched that people seem to be most interested in the trends that you see people getting hits on or reading? Because I'm sure you can track that stuff. What particular posts are people most valued? What do you see people most interested in as you're putting these trends out on Facebook and to this community?
Well, one huge topic is building muscle, right? As a way to is kind of like an insurance as well, health insurance for becoming older, because the more muscle you have, the better your health is going to be when you grow old, because it's not only, helping your metabolism when you have more muscle, but it also keeps you warm, right? It's like a cushion as well. It protects you from
Yes,
falling
protects you.
and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. So that's a huge topic, and especially in women's health, talking about menopause, for example, that's a huge topic. That I
And
can see
muscle is
that.
good and helps with the health of in the processing of that change in life.
Absolutely. So that's a huge thing. And another one is obviously water. Yes. I mean, especially in countries like the US, the water quality is not in a way that you would like to drink it from the tap. And then on
Yes.
the other hand, like buying bottled water from, bottles that you don't know if they've been laying in the sun half a year ago, and where some of
And
that
the
plastic
plastics.
leached into the water,
Right.
And on the
Right.
other hand, it contributes to the amount of waste, right? Single-use plastic bottles is huge part of that, and a lot of that ends up in the oceans, right? So people get more and more conscious about the water that they drink, and I think this is only gonna increase in the next couple of years because of this increase in consciousness, and avoiding chlorine, fluorides, all kind of hormones, heavy metals, and so on. And then last but not least, I mean, nutrition, of course, right?
Right.
What food do you want to put into your mouth? And there's a lot of, I remember I recently had a video uploaded about corn, and it went viral. And the topic was that, for how long have you known that corn contains, I think, 20 something different types of aflatoxins, and people were like, one part was like, I didn't know that, what can I eat instead maybe? And other people were like, but we've been consuming corn for such a long amount of time. This is all lies, and Mexico, for example, has been living off corn for centuries, kind of. That's, the topic. And then, but the truth is kind of like in between, right? I mean, there is corn that is, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
well, is it part of the corn that we're now producing versus the corn that they may have produced back then? Like we have now,
correct.
we've like for example, the book Wheat Belly. Can't remember the author or the name of the author of the book. I don't know if you know the author of Wheat Belly, but I'll make sure that's out there. But talking about that, we have one kind of wheat now that's produced, and this wheat is actually what's causing a lot of the gluten intolerance, and
Yes.
it is actually toxic to the body over time if you consume it, and to the point where we've basically, every once in a while, I still will admit that I enjoy a good piece of bread, and I dabble from time to time, and we cut it out because of what we've learned about the impact of this singular grain that now you can't find. At my time of my grandmother, you could eat as much bread as you wanted; it would not cause the same problems that the current bread is causing, for example. And maybe that's
true.
I don't know if that's the same with corn. If corn has become more singular in its crop formation, whereas maize was a very diverse crop at one point. I would imagine more diverse.
I mean, interesting, when I hear about corn in the US, I'm always thinking about GMO,
Yeah.
and we don't have that in Europe, for example, right?
Yeah, GMO is not allowed in the food supply in Europe. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So that is why, that's what I'm thinking of, like the first thing that I hear, it's like, oh, maybe it's also because of that, because you changed the corn in a way that, just the treatment is different.
Has more toxins in it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is this hydrogen water. They're growing in popularity. And actually, I was actually out with a friend in Chicago a week ago, introduced me to Kagan water. And I had an experience of literally, I had a cold and I had some congestion, and I drank like 5 glasses, and I was having problems sleeping because of it, because the congestion was causing me to snore more, etc. I had 5 glasses of Kangen water that day of this high hydrogen content water. The congestion completely cleared up and I don't know. I mean, I'm using it. This is not an experiment. It was not a double-blind study, but I noticed that my congestion completely cleared out of my body within that end of that day. To the point is we can't quite afford the machines yet because they're pretty impressive, but there are other ways to produce it in water bottles and other things that you can get, at least to get you through it as you get the machine. So tell me about the growing popularity of hydrogen water. I understand it has it's a powerful antioxidant ability. It's anti-inflammatory. It supports the immune system. But tell us what the value of hydrogen water is and how it helps people.
Yes, good question. So I think what is important to mention is that also, I mean, I'm not allowed, for example, to make any health claims, right? But as you said, like there are a lot of stories where this water helped people. A lot of miracle stories, you could say, where people went to a doctor after being diagnosed with very, very bad diseases, and then suddenly it was all gone after they had been drinking this water for a couple of weeks, And I think these machines that produce that are from Japan, and Japan has a very holistic approach to health. And they're not saying drink this water to cure things. They're saying drink this water to improve your body's capacities of fighting potential disease.
Disease. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. And the hydrogen, as you already mentioned, it's an antioxidant, right? I mean, there's still a lot of research that has to be done, for sure. There are also, a lot of rumors around what it actually does, and I don't want to add to that because I think it's important to research that as well. But what I always suggest to people is when they have the chance to try it, like, why don't you try it for a couple of weeks and see if it helps you? Then that's what's most important, right? It's not really about the science.
There's no harmful effects that can come that has been noted, but coming from it, the water. There's various degrees of pH, acidity to alkaline in water, right? So this
Correct.
makes the water more alkaline, which the body seems to do better with versus highly acidic things. We would agree, like we don't want to drink highly acidic things a lot, but it can't harm you. So I think yes, we can't make direct health claims about this. However, as you point to the fact, try it and notice what's different. I tried it and noticed the difference and say, I don't know if these health claims are true, but I had an experience drinking this that was pretty interesting. So
yes.
I should try to drink more of it and see if there's more interesting things that happen in my experience that feel supportive to my energy and my vitality. That's what's important.
That's actually very impressive. Usually you don't see such sudden changes in people. Usually it takes a bit longer. I could have made it up,
but it's enough for me. I'm not saying that I did that. Maybe my cold just got better. Maybe just happened. I'm not saying.
That could be.
I can't say. As I said, I didn't do a double-blind study. I can't say for sure that caused it, but got my attention.
That's why I'm mentioning it again. That when people listen to this podcast, that they're not like, oh, I want to try this, and then they maybe drink a glass or two, and then it's like, oh, nothing happened. It's not magic.
Weeks.
It's not magic. It's kind of like with everything. Good example is going to the gym, right? You're not going to see a change after going to the gym for like a couple of weeks.
2 or 3 months.
But then, suddenly you start, okay, I'm improving my fitness, I'm gaining muscle and so on. And that's the same with this, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the machines could be in, thousands of dollars, right? These kicking machines, which, is worthwhile the investment when you think about it. But what's the interim step people could take? There are these hydrogen water bottles. You have to do your research and you have to know what you're getting. There are apparently good ones out there that actually work well and what's out there that don't. So you have to do your research. But what would you say is an interim step for people if they want to try this water out? Is there a way? And of course, you don't know the distribution in the United States, so we have to figure that out. But are there
Yes, I do
are there
actually.
ways you do? Okay, so where
Yes.
you can actually buy the water pre-hydrogenized or whatever, and I think like Whole Foods grocery store has one where I don't know if reducing the pH or increasing the pH to a more alkaline pH is the same, but to help us with that, how can people try this out?
So first of all, what you just said, I just want to quickly mention that it's the high pH is just a side product of the ionization process. So the main focus should be on the hydrogen, right? And while I would say that even though there's a cost related to these machines, it's actually an investment, right? These machines actually save you money because they don't only save you if you've been buying bottled water, for example. They don't save you the cost for just the plastic bottles, but they also, with these machines, you can produce different kind of water. You can produce water to clean your kitchen. You can actually produce a disinfectant that you can use to clean all kind of surfaces, even the toilet. You have water that you can produce with that machine that eliminates stains, for example. You can add it to your laundry and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different uses actually that replace other kind of products. And if we talk about like how much this actually costs in the end, if you calculate how much you spend on other things over the year, like detergents, water, other kind of things, then it's actually not that much. And these machines have like a lifetime of 20 plus years, right?
Yeah, the machines themselves, you have to replace a filter, but and that's a once a year, usually a once a year thing. It's not like your Brita filter.
No,
I don't know much about those, but you don't replace it every 30 days or whatever. You're
month.
Replacing it once a year. There's some maintenance, but it's very minimal, right? On the machines.
That's true.
Themselves.
That's true. And I do want to say, like, even, like the company even offers in-house financing. So even if you have like a bad credit or something, you can still, usually be able to finance that. And even if that is too much, like $50, $60 a month with maybe a down payment, then what you can do is, for example, get hydrogen tablets. That's only the focus on hydrogen, right? But these tablets are also not very cheap. So I think, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was about $2 or something for like one tablet. So, if you do the maths and if you want to drink that every day, kind of adds up quickly. But I have actually a great offer for the people that are listening to this. I have access to a map in the US where distributors can register. So what most of these people do, or actually everybody who registers for this map, is open to do water shares and, without any costs related. So what people can do, they can reach out to me and I'll find out for them who's living the closest and who would be willing to share their water with them. And that's absolutely possibility.
That's where you
We've
could
been
go
doing
out
this
and
for a while.
Get a couple jugs of water that they've generated and produced that they're willing to share. And you can then maybe try this for a couple weeks or whatever. That way, if you could work out an arrangement, that would be working for the people that are willing to share it. And I know our distributors that have stores too. There's one in Chicago that I went to that was a friend of mine who will provide a certain amount of water for a period of time for you to try it without a lot of investment. And they actually have jugs that they're branded for that store, and they'll produce that. So there are people out there that you could try it. I think it's certainly something that when you think about the consumption of a product or an element into our bodies, which we should be drinking a lot each day, water is a pretty central nutritional element. And it's something that people ought to try out again, letting their own experience, not any claims, be the reason for trying it. And as they say, the water actually tastes good too. It's very clean. Has a great taste, but there's not much of a taste to it, which is good. And it doesn't have any bad ingredients in it that are going to cause you any harm. So that it's worth it. It's worth trying. So I'll make sure that your contact we'll make sure that the right contact information for you is below the podcast. So if people are interested, they can they can share that. Well, I I appreciate. I would love to know what kind of you know what kind is next for you as we kind of wrap up today.
Yes.
What are new projects and goals and things that you're excited about that you're up to next, Felix, and your career and your life?
Well, right now it's all centered around, this page, this theme page, and also the Kangen water. But I want to move in a direction where basically the content is more thoroughly researched, especially following along with ongoing research and current topics, focus on new insights. That's obviously only possible if I can pay more to someone who actually takes the time to do the research, And I mean, at the same time, I want to focus on transparency, like who financed studies or research, if we actually get there at one point, who will benefit from that. And I want to balance on this page modern research and science with knowledge about like natural remedies and long known knowledge of past generations, because I think there's a lot of value in that. And this, as I mentioned, requires a certain revenue from running the page as well. So I'm going to look into more, sharing, for example, the Kangen water, for example, with people, and also other kind of health-related products. But moreover, I want to shift the attention from people, it's not just about healthy drinking water and the reality of, that you're waking up to that water we are using is bad or something like that. But I want to shift also the focus a little bit on nature, I think health and nature is very closely related. And what is important to me is that, maybe I like what I'm aiming for midterm is to create something such as a retreat for decision makers, for, stress managers that actually want to kind of de-stress, do it in nature, maybe learn something on the side.
That's such a beautiful vision.
Such as, natural ways of like, hunting, fishing, growing some crops on your own, maybe planting some trees, like stuff that connects you again with nature, because I see there's a huge disconnect, which is also part of the health issues we experience. And why this kind of group of people? I mean, I would love to also offer that to other people, but that'll be something for later. But it's important.
This is what. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's important that they, like that the decision makers make a start, right? That they decide, okay, this decision is gonna eventually affect nature in a way, and how can I maybe model this decision so that it's not. How would you say that? I think you know what I mean, but it's not.
It's like adding value to our planet and to people.
Yes,
still providing a good product, but it's not. It's also negatively impacting, but even positively impacting.
Yes,
the environment and people. I do think that I don't know if you track the Robert F. Kennedy appointment in the United States to the Health and Human Services, and one of the first things they want to do is take fluoride out of the water. I'm
very curious to see how that. Yes,
it's good. Well, I mean, he's a very controversial guy. Many people have been listening to him. I think he's a crackpot or whatever. But I actually believe that he is not. He's a well-researched and very smart guy. And if you look at how he takes care of himself, he's pretty buff. By the way, I mean, for his age, his whole thing is bringing us back to taking care of our metabolic health. And stop seeing the just allowing the consumption of certain things into our body. And then healthcare's responsibility is to mask or remove those symptoms that were caused because of what we ingested into our body and because we didn't exercise at all the things that you're talking about. So I see what Arif Health is doing is reinforcing that side of taking personal responsibility for our health. Stop just consuming unconsciously. Think about what you're putting in your body. Understand the value of taking time off to be in nature, to to connect with other people in community outside of work, where you can just enjoy
Absolutely.
yourself. Have a glass of red wine with a friend. That will counter any negative effects of the wine because you're really connecting with somebody and you're feeling that appreciation and that connection. So I appreciate everything you said today on the show, and we might have you back again. Any final words for you as we close out today? Anything you wanted to share just to feel complete in today's conversation?
Yes, maybe I think it's important to say that I notice that a lot of people just want to be told what to do, but they don't want to do any thinking themselves.
Yes.
And that can lead to unmet expectations and frustration, and also a feeling of helplessness, and that in turn leads to anger maybe. And so what I really want to get at is that people also implement, right? That they not just consume information, but when they hear certain things, that they first of all try to, okay, someone said, you have to do this. But instead, maybe think about how you personally, like to kind of just question this, that's all I'm saying.
Critical
question.
Thinking. Be a critical
thinking.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
And because that will, in the end, reduce frustration, unmet expectations, and so on. And I think that will, add to your well-being.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a great way to bring it all together, Felix. I really appreciate you saying that. Being, I'm going to say that being in the comfort zone, which is kind of it's almost like we've been lured to sleep, and almost on purpose. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories here, but it's almost on purpose, that because being asleep serves those that want you asleep. And it's about waking up, and waking up has to do with, this is my body, this is my life, this is my freedom, this is my opportunity. It goes back to, how do I want to live my life so that the foundation of my life is health and vitality, and that I'm honoring and valuing the time that I have, so that I could decide what my big why is, what I want to do with my life, how I want to experience life, what do I want to contribute to life. And if we all begin to ask those questions, the world would change for the better.
100%.
Right?
Absolutely agree.
And that's all we're asking is, think for yourself, really consider what you really want to create in your life. And as for an executive, it's really essential. Their energy, their focus, their vitality is essential to your success. So those people are listening. It's essential to your success. And, as much as you say, coaches will preach to them all the time, you got to take care of yourself. Self-care is so important. Yeah. When I have time. Yeah. And then when they retire and they can't move anymore, and then they wish they would have listened. So I want to thank you so much, Felix, for being on the show, with sharing your story, your insights. I know listeners will take away a lot of gems that will support them in living a full, more healthier, integrated life. So thanks again for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. And to all you tuning in, thank you for being part of this journey with us. Your time and attention mean the world to me. If you found today's discussion valuable, please help us by spreading the word, by letting your colleagues know, friends and family, or anyone that may benefit from listening to Unfazed and on Fire. Remember, you can catch this and all episodes in video on YouTube and on audio on 18 platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Until next time, keep leading with purpose. Take good care of yourself. Take some of this to heart, and have a great rest of your day. This is David Kirgutz, the Leadership Alchemist, signing off. Thanks again.